Hello, Vlogalogue. I am from the future, and by which I mean the past, and I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, so yeah, ad blocking is a thing. It's been a thing for a very long time, and I've been using it for quite some time. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I will say that, however, I do have a small exceptions list. Did you know that at least on like Chrome with AdBlock Plus or whatever, I should have looked it up and now I sound like an idiot. Anyway, you can define with certain AdBlock softwares YouTube whitelists that allow you to whitelist certain channels. I'm not sure how entirely well it works. There are certainly many times when I don't get ads on a YouTube channel, which I know I have A, whitelisted, and B, that does have ads. And I don't know if that's just a function of not having enough ads to serve or whatnot. But that number has actually dwindled over the past couple of years as Subbable and Patreon have become things. Where you have, like, CGP Grey calls it AdBlock Absolution, which has very interesting connotations because you pay $1 per video to CGP Grey, which effectively achieves Hank's, I don't know why Hank was in quote, I meant to say Hank's $1 CPM, that's the quote, for a video. However, it all goes directly to the creator, and none of it goes to YouTube, which is fronting, like, a huge portion of the cost. Now, actually, in Gray's case, he does host his videos, and he encourages you to not watch them on YouTube if you don't want to. However, I would assume that his video hosting costs would rise dramatically if the million-plus people who watch his videos on, you know, the monthly basis on which he releases them suddenly started downloading them directly from his servers. I figure he'd probably have a fairly large drop-off in the amount of money he was making off of his YouTube channel. However, that all being said, and that all being taken fairly, videos aren't really the hot spot of this current debate about AdBlock. It's more the news sites and the journalist sites, which I guess are kind of like the same things, and the blogs that are really more up in arms about this than anyone else, really. Because on your phone, you're going to have a lot of custom apps. You're going to have, like, the Twitter app, and you're going to have the Tumblr app, and you're going to have the Reddit app, and you're going to have all the different, like, big websites with their own apps. And those come with inbuilt ads. Twitter will inject ads into your view stream through its own app, which is far, far, far better than visiting Twitter on the mobile Safari or whatever you may be using that has an ad block filter built in. On Android, if you have a rooted device, you can install more system-wide ad blocking, which can actually block the ads in those native apps. But what's being talked about now is not anything close to that, and that's a very niche product market. Rooted is a concept on Android in which you've taken full control over your own phone, and it's not a process for non-technical people, really. There are some, like, one-click do-it buttons that will sometimes root all phones, but again, it's not one-size-fits-all, and it's a pretty complicated process. So the market for rooted block all ads everywhere on Android devices is actually pretty small. No, but it's the journalists and the blog writers who are really the people hurt most by this. Because the ads they run, as Kevin explained, are very, very resource intensive. And so there's a lot to be gained by blocking them. And there's a lot to be lost from the creator's perspective when people no longer read their art. Well, they read the article, but they don't pay for it. And it's certainly not reasonable to have, like, pay $1 per every article, like Patreon type stuff, which is common on YouTube, for blogs. You can have a tip button, but I wouldn't ever pay for the news. I don't think I'm alone in that. I actively try to avoid large swaths of news, just because, not because I don't want to be uninformed, but there is sort of, and a lot of people go through this of trying to play around with what they read on the news and what they don't. However, what I do read is largely tech blogs. Tech blogs probably lose a lot of advertising revenue from me because I don't look at their ads, and I haven't for a very long time. What all of that, in hopes to say that for a very, very long time, in fact, from the beginning of the web, back when Google was hosted on circuit boards glued to Legos, there have been the question of how do you make money off the internet, because it's not inherently a thing that has money in it. It needs to extract money from the individuals, either by selling them through selling of their eyeballs, or by getting them to give in your credit card information. And I wish there was a better model. I bet everyone wishes there was a better model, but Google kind of pioneered the idea. Well, I'm not going to say they pioneered the idea of advertising, but they were very critical in the early days of advertising, and they're extremely critical now. And it's just the only way to do it for some places. If you're not selling a product, and you can argue that selling articles would be a product, you're not going to ever make money off it. Now, that being said, there are certainly people who are going to go out and write blogs and journals because they enjoy doing it. And they will perhaps get hired by a more traditional institution like Wired or some big company that can sell ads as sort of an in-stream type product, tie-ins, promoted things to get their money and avoid the ad block software. However, ad block software could potentially go ahead and block anything that had the word promoted in it, because full journalistic disclosure says you should say that this is a promoted item, and if you don't say it's a promoted item, then you run into a whole bunch of problems. But ad block software can just say, oh, it said promoted. Well, we don't need to see that article. And then you get into an even deeper issue. Anyway, my thoughts on ad block are sort of, there has to be a better way. I don't think you should ever pay for ad blocking software. That feels weird. That just feels wrong to have to pay for ad blocking software. I think ad blocking software should be free, which would be interesting for its development. I don't mind people asking for donations, I guess, but even still, that feels weird. And the fact that it feels weird makes me feel weird about the whole concept of ad blocking. But I think there must be, the advertising networks, I think, are going to have to eventually say, okay, our advertisements got too big, we need to slim them down. And if we don't slim down our advertisements, ad blocks can get more and more popular. However, they may think the opposite. They may think, okay, well, we are showing less ads, let's understand more about them and make the current ads that we already have, that we're already showing, even more research intensive, which will push more people away from actually looking at the ads and into using ad block. And then just more and more and more and more people will have ad block, and the ads will get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until the entire internet implodes upon itself. And which would be no good for anyone. So yeah, my hope is that ad companies scale back and perhaps streamline, like the Twitter ads are unintrusive. They load like a tweet. You just scroll past them. I see plenty of them all the time. You just ignore them. They're not resource heavy. They're not tracking. They're just kind of there, and I don't mind them. If more ads were like that, I'd be much more happy to look at ads. But if you look at the numbers for what turning an ad block on does to both reduce your bandwidth and reduce battery life and CPU usage and all of that, it's astounding. But yeah, that's my ramble on ad block. This has been going on for what, like 10 minutes now? Sorry about that. Anyway, have a lovely week. I'll see you all tomorrow. Well, no, I won't see you tomorrow. I'll see you in a week. Bye!